Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. My voice cracked on that one. Welcome, everybody, to Monday Night Nerd. My name is Myers from Cosplay. Welcome, one and all. I hope you all are having a beautiful, safe Devil's Night this October 30th. Tomorrow is Halloween, which means tonight we rank the Halloween movies. Yes, my name is Myers Scorp Cosplay, but in the real world, my name is Michael Myers, and I'm here to talk about Halloween movies because, well, it's kind of my name. I'm named after the character, but not really. Go check out a previous episode to hear about that. But if you're new, welcome. My name is Myers Scorp Cosplay. I'm a cosplayer. I've been attending conventions for over 10 years. I've been cosplaying for almost 10 years. I've been a nerd since birth, and I am so happy you could be here. If you're new, please, I would greatly appreciate a subscribe or a like or anything you can do, because I really enjoy doing this, and I would really appreciate if you show me the love. Hope you're all having a great night. Let's start things off with a little bit of news tonight. Usually I got a bunch of topics to talk about, but I got 3 things we're going to cover because I did 2 of them, and one of them, even though I'm not a giant fan of the product, I feel like we should still talk about it a little bit tonight and sort of break everybody's heart again. Last night or yesterday, can't remember exactly when, but we lost Matthew Perry from Friends. I am not a giant Friends fan. I did not watch the show growing up. I do not watch it on reruns. My wife watches it religiously. I do appreciate the show. I do appreciate everything that it means to everybody. It's just not my cup of tea. It's very sad what happened to him. Back in the day when I first started this show, we had a segment of the show called Thanks to the Memories, and we stopped doing it just because it kind of became a downer part of the show. But every once in a while, if somebody important leaves pop culture, I do want to recognize them. So unfortunately, we lost him. If you're a gamer, he was a big gamer. He famously played Fallout 3 to the point where he had to go to the doctor because his hands were hurting so much. And I believe he was also voice actor in Fallout New Vegas. So we lost a large hockey fan, a large gamer, and a friend of a generation. And Matthew Perry, we miss you. Thank you for the memories. Now, this weekend, I went to 2 conventions. I've never done this before. I've never done 2 conventions in one weekend. I've done 1 convention for an entire weekend, but I'm not split and done 2 different conventions. This weekend, I started off on the Friday that I took off. I went to Frightmare in the Falls. This was my first Frightmare in the Falls. I had volunteered at the one just after the pandemic where it was sort of a split. It was going on at the same time as Niagara Falls Comic-Con. So you had the big room and it was split in half. Half was Frightmare, half was Niagara. And I was on the Niagara side. And I was a little too busy working to actually go over and see Frightmare. I heard lots of great things, but I really didn't get to experience it. So this was my first time going to Frightmare. And I am a horror fan, but I'm not a giant horror fan, but I do like horror movies. And I had to go this year because a big bunch of the Halloween cast was there. And I was very happy to have met every one of them. And this is something that everybody should know if you're volunteering. These are not free when you volunteer. I paid for every one of these, and I was very happy to do so. So I was actually working with the person that made that mask famous. I got to work with Nick Castle, which was an honor for me to work with Michael Myers as Michael Myers. And yes, I did tell him that was my name, and he thought he got a big kick out of it. And he apologized because he understands that it could be a bit of a pain. And I said, yes, but more for the Mike Myers comedian. Like when you're going through middle school and you have that name and you have to deal with Austin Powers and the Love Guru and all that, that's not fun. But this guy's fun. This guy's fun, especially this time of year. So I met Mr. Nick Castle. Was great working with him. I met PJ Souls, who plays Linda in the movie. Totally great meeting her. She was amazing. And everything I heard about her and seen about her. She's amazing. If you're a horror fan, if you're a Halloween fan, please meet her. She is worth every penny. I met Sandy Johnson, who played Judith. Judith is Michael's first kill when he is a kid. And then I also met Will Sarin, who plays Michael as a 6-year-old. And the only person I'm missing from that list is Jamie Lee Curtis. So if anyone knows Jamie Lee Curtis, which if you do and you haven't told me yet, I'm surprised. But if you know Jamie Lee Curtis, please send her my way because I would love to get her autograph. She doesn't do conventions, so the chances of me actually getting hers is pretty low, but fingers crossed. Oh, also, these are all the people I met, but this one in particular was the first autograph I got, and that was from 2013, I believe, 2012, 2013, and that's John Carpenter's autograph, the director of Halloween, the director of The Thing, the director of Escape from New York, an amazing director. And I met him first, and I knew, okay, that's the front one, that's the first one. Now I got to get the rest. And it was so great to meet all of them. And like I said, it was so great to meet Nick. The rest of the con was amazing. Like I said, unfortunately, I was only there one day, so I didn't get to experience 3 days of Frightmare. But from what I've been told for all my friends that were volunteering and working there, they all said it was a great weekend. Bam Margera was there, and everyone was saying he was a hoot to be around. Who else was there? Ron Perlman was there. Corey Feldman was there. A bunch of the other Sons of Anarchy guys. Keith David was there, and I did not get an opportunity to meet Keith David. I wish I could, because the voice actor Keith David, like Spawn, Goliath from Gargoyles, Saints Row, like such an iconic voice actor. Unfortunately, was a little too busy to go over and say hi. Hopefully next time I will. But like I said, overall, it was a great con. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Work with Nick Castle, did a little bit of a walk around. Seemed like everybody was having a blast. I know a bunch of people that went that I didn't even know were going. So it was really cool to see photos throughout the weekend of people, friends, cosplayers. They were all there and they looked like they were having a blast. So good for them. In fact, one of the cosplayers who, I don't know if he's watching the show or not, but he's friends with the Geeks & Co. guys, Shadowhawk Cosplay. He was dressed up as Michael Myers from the 2018 film. And one of the coworkers of mine showed me a photo that she was there with her daughter and got a photo with Shadowhawk Cosplay. And I said, I know that guy. So that was really cool. So it looked like, again, everybody had a blast. So I'm glad it was a great con. I will probably be going back next year. And if nothing comes in the way of it, I will probably be doing the entire weekend there. And as my wife is in chat, she says Cole and Phil were there for our anniversary. That's two of the people that I would have loved to have seen, but unfortunately, I think they went on the Saturday, and they look like they had a hoot. They got married at Halloween a few years back, and this is how I think they've spent every anniversary going to Frightmare because it's always around Halloween. But yeah, great con, knocked out of the park as always. Can't wait to be there next year. My Saturday didn't really do much. Got to relax all day, did some house stuff, but Sunday we went to the Awesome Toy Show, and I was invited there by the Awesome Toy Show as a cosplayer. And I had heard so many great things about this con. It's a little con out in Mississauga at the Oasis Convention Center. It was just one day. And I know the Geeks & Co. guys were there last year. I believe Reed Props Plus was there that year too. And I messaged both of them. I said, hey, what do you guys know about this con? And they said, dude, it's great. You're going to have a fun time. Go. If they invited you, go. It's worth it. And I said, okay. So I went, and I got to admit, it was a pretty fun con. It wasn't Fan Expo big. So I have to point that out. This also falls into, like I said, with London Comic Con, of the roller coaster effect that I had with conventions. I've been going to Fan Expo for 10 years, and Fan Expo is, like, I think the third biggest convention in North America. So any con that's not Fan Expo feels small to me. Niagara Falls feels small. Toronto feels small. Anything smaller than that is tiny. This was a tiny con, but it wasn't a bad con in the least. I actually really enjoyed it. They had a DJ playing in the hall that they were at, and having like music playing throughout the whole convention was actually really cool. I really enjoyed that. And I really liked that. Okay, this is the one thing I will say about their con. If anybody ever complains about the prices of vendors at any convention, I hear it from Fan Expo, I hear it from Niagara, I hear it from Toronto Comic Con. If anybody ever complains about pricing of vendors, Go to Awesome Toy Show. The deals that I saw throughout the convention were huge. I didn't want to spend a ton of money because I have things I have to get for cosplay and stuff. But I did pick up Kotal Khan because I'm trying to collect all of the Mortal Kombat 11 figures. And this is the blood-covered variant. $10. Hasn't been opened, $10. I want to point out, if you ever heard the term McFarlane figures and $10, I haven't. I was so happy to pick that up. That is now the 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 4th or 5th of the collection that I have. That was a really cool find. And that was not the only thing there. There was Wolverine figures, like the good ones that were on really cheap. There were some people selling some wrestling merch that were on there. Hornswoggle from the WWE was there. He was signing autographs. They were only $30. Like, if you're a wrestling fan, that's cheap for what some of these autographs are for. All in all, I had a blast. Even the cosplayers were really cool. There was a guy there who had the spoilers if you don't know how the cosplay works. He had the tentacle venom, like he had the sweater, so it looks like his arms were crossed, and he had his hand through the tentacle venom. Looked amazing. Did a great job on it. It was so much fun. I honestly, if they invite me back next year, I'll be more than happy to go. JS, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, it was a great time at Awesome Toy Show. Great con. If you're free, check them out on Instagram. They've got a bunch coming up. I don't think it's a once a year con. I think they do it throughout the year, different versions of it. So check them out on Instagram. Keep up with them because, yeah, that was a pretty cool little con that was definitely worth my time going. And I'm going to say, I forgot to tell you a story about Frightmare. And if the person sees this, they're going to kill me because I forgot her name. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I should remember your name, but it was just, I'm having a mind moment. When I was working with Nick Castle, who plays Michael Myers, there is a girl that I met, a girl and a guy who were in line for the Terrifier group at Niagara Falls Comic-Con. And I was working the Terrifier line, and I was just chit-chatting with them. And we kind of hit it off, and we were just kind of yakking about stuff. And she added me on Instagram. I added her and her boyfriend, husband, I'm not sure, on Instagram. And we've just kind of yacked back and forth of, oh, did you see this movie? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm working Nick Castle's line, and I hear scream, Myers. And I turn, and I see her, and she comes running towards me and gives me a big hug. And then she just starts laughing. And I said, what's so funny? And she goes, Nick thought I was talking to him. So he waved and didn't realize that she was coming up to me, not for him. So that was pretty funny. And I had to chuckle with Nick after that. I said, that's probably the first time that's ever happened. He said, yeah, usually they're coming running for me. So I apologize for the individual that I don't remember her name, but I told her I would mention on the podcast because that was really, really funny. But like I said, all in all, great weekend. Frightmare was amazing. Awesome Toy Show was amazing. I think that's it for conventions. I might have one last event in November. I'm still kind of waiting on a few details about that, but there might be one more little day convention in Mississauga that I can't. I don't want to talk. I just don't want to talk about it because I don't know about the details, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to be there if it doesn't happen. But anyways, let's start ranking some movies. But before we do that, we have to talk about our sponsor because our sponsor is in the chat. And if I don't talk about her, what type of show is this? If you're new to the show, I have a sponsor every single week. And until someone gives me some extra cash to sponsor them on the show, this person will be number one. And you know what? Even if you give me money, they're still going to be number one because they are the ultimate sponsor. And that is my wife. My wife, I love her. I would not be the person I am without her. I would not be doing this show without her. She is amazing. She is incredible. She is away in New Brunswick right now with family, but she is still amazing. Hun, I love you. I miss you. I can't wait till you're back on Wednesday. But yeah, thank you, hun. You will always be my sponsor. Let's start ranking some Halloween movies. Let's start frustrating some people, I think, because I don't think we're going to have the big issue with Jeff hating on the Dark Knight, but I do think there's going to be a couple on this list in the order that not many people are thinking. And again, it's my list. Now, usually I have some qualifications on why I've ranked things a certain way. obviously we can't do one per franchise because it's all the same franchise. These are determined by how much I enjoyed them. Also, there is a little bit of a bias because there are a couple of them that were the first ones that I got on DVD when I was younger. And back in the day when you just had a couple of DVDs to watch, you just watched them on repeat. So there are a couple that people would be like, why is that so high? Because I've watched it 100 times and I've been able to enjoy it, even though you may have watched it once and hated it. So, and again, my list, get your own show if you want your own list. So let's start this off. Let me throw this list up here. Here we go. I know it's small, but you know what? That's what we have to work with here. Let's start at the bottom with number 13 because I think we can all admit that this is number 13. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. You know what? Because this is going to get really crammed in here, let's just call it Halloween 3. Yeah, that's number 13. And you know what? I'll be fair. There's nothing really wrong with Halloween 3. I have to admit. Halloween 3 it's a different take. Michael Myers isn't in it. The whole concept of Halloween was John Carpenter wrote it as 1 and 2 were going to be Michael Myers' story, and Halloween was sort of going to be an overarching theme, and Michael Myers wasn't going to be the whole thing. They were going to have different stories for different movies. Hence why Halloween 3 is different. But everyone loved that guy so much that they made a big stink that he wasn't in number 3. Again, it's not a bad movie overall, but it's not a good Halloween movie. And that's what this list is your top Halloween movies. Yeah, like it's, again, the whole concept of the movie, if you haven't seen it, is there's a guy, he's made masks for kids, and when they watch a show, the masks kill them. Honestly, I've seen the movie once a long time ago, and I didn't enjoy it because, again, I was waiting for Michael Myers to appear. If you like it, great. It's just not mine. It's not for me. Number 12. Again, I think this one is sort of understood that everybody feels this way. Halloween Resurrection. Like, what were they thinking? Okay, let's break this movie down. I think the idea behind Halloween Resurrection is a good one. I think the idea that the reality show trend was kind of big at the time, so having everybody live in a house like Real World and stuff like that was big. So doing a reality show in the Myers house, I get where they're going with it, but it just failed. Like, it just fell apart. I will admit one part I did enjoy was so the intro of the movie, if you haven't seen it, they killed Jamie Lee Curtis's character. And this was supposed to be her swan song, but due to directorial and budget and all that stuff, it wasn't what she wanted, but she still did it because she wanted it to be over. So at the beginning of the movie, Myers is in an asylum. He breaks out. He still stays at the asylum, though, meets Jamie on a roof. Jamie's also in the asylum. Or no, Jamie's in the asylum. Michael breaks in. They end up on the roof, throws her off. She dies. He comes back in, and he's carrying the knife that he stabbed Jamie with, and he gives it to an inmate. I don't like that part because Michael Myers would not hand over a knife to another person. Do you get it? Like, that's not his style. But the one thing I did enjoy was after he did give the knife over, the inmate then started to recite all of the statistics and timeline moments of Michael Myers, of October 31st, blah, 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 kills his sister, did it. I enjoyed that because it sort of took a whole bunch of history and put it right into everybody understands where we are right now. So I enjoyed that part of it. but that's kind of the only part I enjoyed. The cast was just bad. Like having, the topical actors of Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, and I can't remember the guy who was on the other end of who was watching the reality show, who was trying to tell the friends he knew who were in the house what was going on. It was bad. And I mean, I think everybody remembers the end line of Busta Rhymes kicking Michael Myers into an electrical panel or into the electrical wires, trick or treat, mother. And it's just like, this is bad. Even though it was probably one of my first Halloween movies that came out when I was watching Halloween movies. Yeah, I still knew it was a bad movie. That's why it's number 12. And I think anybody that's seen it understands why. Let me pause for a second and sort of fill you guys in on my history with the movie. I forgot to do that at the beginning. I didn't watch these growing up. Okay. I was actually terrified of horror movies when I was a kid. When I was little, I remember going to a friend of mine's house. My mom was babysitting myself and him and his sister. And we went to the video store, and they were horror fans. And this was just after Bride of Chucky came out. And they wanted to watch it. And my mom knew if I watch this thing, I'm going to be up all night, very scared. So we changed and we watched Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, which if you've seen that movie, it's a really bad movie. And Chucky's actually not that bad. But anyways, I didn't watch horror movies until I started going to our public library all the time. I got a library card, and when I found out you can rent movies all the time, I just never stopped going, and I rented every movie I've ever wanted. And this was one of them. Halloween 1 was definitely one I had on my list, and I remember getting it on VHS back in the day when we had VHS. And I remember waiting till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All the lights are on, all the windows are open. And I put this thing in, and I'm gripping the edge of my seat going, all right, I'm ready for this. And when it was over, I kind of went, that's it? That's what I was scared of? Oh, well, that's nothing. And that's what started the horror trend for me. Because then I was like, oh, let's rent every horror movie ever. Like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, I didn't care. Texas Chainsaw, everything. Didn't care. So I didn't start watching these until probably my early teens. So yes, there was, I think, Halloween 6 and H2O came out just before I started really watching. But it was Resurrection was the first one that came out that I was like, okay, I should watch this. What a bad one to start with. Let's continue on this list. Now, I think some people might think this should be around this area, but I think people are going to notice that there's one missing, and there's a reason for that. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, is number 11. Now, when you get into the 4 or 5 area of these films, you start to hit the 4 or 5 movies for almost every franchise. I could say the same for Nightmare on Elm Street. I could say pretty much the same for Friday the 13th. I kind of say the same for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Once you hit that past 3 trilogy, you start to fall downhill. And with 4 and 5, we kind of have an issue because the series takes a turn. And Halloween 5 introduced flared neck Michael Myers. And what I mean by that is, as you can see by the mask behind me, it is very shapely to your head. It is form-fitting. There's a little bit of wiggle room. Every movie has a different mask because they have different mask makers. And as famously known, not this one in particular, but the original mask was based off a William Shatner mask. People have taken liberties with that every movie. And this one, they decided to make one that was a little more boxy looking, and the neck is flared out a lot. I don't know if it's just to easily get it over or what, but it is a weird look. Some people love it. Some people don't. I'm sort of in the middle. I think it's a different look, but compared to this one and others, I don't think it's one of the best. Um, at the end of number 4, spoilers for number 4 that'll be on this list later. A whole bunch of the townspeople shoot Michael Myers and he falls down a mine shaft. Dun dun dun, he's dead. Well, in number 5, he falls down a mine shaft and crawls through a hole in it and is saved by a hermit. And he is out cold and is revived by a hermit and then kills the elderly hermit after he's been rescued. I don't know who decided that would be the way to bring Michael Myers back, but that was a weird way of doing it. It was just an odd choice. There are movies further up this list that kill Michael Myers, and later on, the next film, they show how he survived. This is the worst. Like, if he just got shot and it was like Friday the 13th where he just recovered magically, I'd be okay with that. But he's saved by a hermit and then kills him within the first. No, sorry. Can't. That's stretching the idea of this a little too thin for me. Jamie Lloyd is the protagonist in this instead of Jamie Lee Curtis. It's her last movie played by what the heck is her name? I have her autograph. Why do I not have it? Anyways, Danielle Harris. Jamie Lloyd is played by Danielle Harris, and she does a fine job for a kid actor. I think she does a good job. But again, with this one, they made some odd choices. She was a main protagonist number 4, and then in this one, due to all the trauma she's dealt with, she's now a mute. What? Like, and then the ending, Michael breaks out of jail. He gets arrested and he just breaks out of jail. And the ending is everybody shows up at the jail cell. And there's a big Hulk hole in the wall. And that's it. Like, no, I'm sorry. It had some good ideas and it's better than the ideas that Resurrection and 3 had, but still, I don't like this. And this was the second of 3 for the Thorn trilogy where Michael has been cursed. Hence one of the movies coming up. And the thorn tattoo on him is what's driving him, and a cult is driving him to kill, not just being a maniac. Again, kind of a cool choice if done properly, but it wasn't. Number 10. Following the last one, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Similar arguments as number 5. The difference, this mask, we had flared neck in number 5, and this one is super clean white mask for number 4. With this mask, you see some of the details in the cheeks and a little bit of distress on it. In different movies, it's more weathered. This one is a crystal clean white mask, and it's really circular. It's got an odd look, which again, I don't know who told these people this is the design that they should go with. I assume that when they're making masks, they make different versions, but why someone picked this one, I do not know. Again, Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris does a great job in this one. This is her first movie, and she plays it very well as the person that Michael is stalking throughout the whole movie and wanting to kill. This is supposedly the last member of the Lloyd family that Michael is trying to kill. And she does, again, a great job as a child actor. I think she really brings out the innocence of a child, brings out the humanity of a child that I think other movies, you have what's called, you kind of have cannon fodder when it comes to horror movies. You have the characters that you really have no investment to. Blow them out of the water, they don't care. Slaughter them all over the screen, no one's going to miss them. I think Danielle Harris and the Jamie Lloyd character is definitely a different feel to it because, again, it is a child, And just the innocence of it, of not understanding what she's been born into, is a very interesting concept that I don't think any other horror movies really pushed. I think they all sort of have that teen, young adult, older adult feel to it. And again, you just don't feel the sympathy to them because just slice them up. No one cares. The story's slow. This is probably one of the slowest Halloween movies. There is a lot of world building because they are trying to introduce Michael back into the world after 3 and not having him. Jamie Lee Curtis's character is not in this, so you have to talk about why she's not in it. You have to talk about the new family, the new friends. It's a slog to get through. And I think we got to this year. This was 98. This was the year I was born. We had gone to the point of seeing so many horror movies of just Freddy ripping the crap out of people, Jason slaughtering every person that's ever gone to camp. This was a little too much backstory that they just tried to force feed everybody, and it came too much. It came too much, and it didn't work. And again, the ending, he just gets shot down a mine shaft. Like, I'm not saying you got to behead him and everyone, but that's it. That was just a crappy way to go. So we got Halloween 3, Resurrection 5, and 4. In the chat, what is your number one? Not including number 1, because I think everybody's going to say number 1 is number 1. What is your number 1? What is your favorite Halloween movie? And what's your worst? Tell me your worst, because I want to see if anybody has the same as I do. Number 9. This one, I think a lot of people would put a lot lower. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We're just going to do this so you can see it a little better. Zombies Halloween 2. This is a different movie. And I mean that even compared to the first Rob Zombie movie. The backstory behind this is Rob Zombie said he would be more than happy to take over the franchise when they wanted to reboot it. He did Halloween 1. Everyone enjoyed it. It has its critics, and I completely understand why, but he did not want to do a sequel. However, the studio had supposedly gone through a bunch of different writers, a bunch of different directors, and they finally reached out to Rob and said, Rob, we really want you to do a second movie. Well, Rob did not enjoy really doing the first one due to way too many cooks in the kitchen. So he had a three film deal where he had to shoot 3 movies for them. And he said, I'll only come back if you take away that third film. This will be it for me. So you already have a director that's going into this not thrilled. This is also a weird. So I don't want to talk too much about the first Rob Zombie movie because it's further up on the list. But if you watch Halloween 1 and then you watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, he takes a very different turn on it. If you've ever seen any of Rob Zombie's movies, you can kind of understand that the feel of Rob Zombie's movies are very gruesome, very in your face, very real, to the point of being overkill. Now he's taken that genre and that feel and just saying, okay, and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. The Mask. We're always going to talk about The Mask because that is one of the key things that everyone looks at. The Mask from the first Rob Zombie movie is very similar to the original Mask, but it's a little more distressed, and he finds it in a crawl space later on in life. And it's a little more distressed. This one is really distressed to the point where part of it has been ripped off and you can actually see Michael Myers' face, which I actually like. I know a lot of people hate that mask because it shows too much Michael Myers. This one also, Michael has grown a beard to the point where it's hanging out of the bottom of the mask. I kind of don't mind it. Again, I know a lot of people say it's going so far away from the Michael Myers character, but I feel like because it's a Rob Zombie movie, I'm giving it a little bit of credit as it's not the same Michael Myers we've been accustomed to, and it's an alternate universe Michael Myers, let's say. So it's okay that it's tweaked a little bit non-traditional. Later on in the movie, he doesn't just have the coveralls that he has in traditional movies. He's got more of what everyone's calling hobo Michael Myers. He's grabbed a lot of clothes from random places. He's got a big coat on. Again, the mask is being ripped. You can see his hair coming out of it. Again, it's not a bad look, to the point where at the end of the movie, the mask is destroyed so much, he just rips the mask off, and you just see Michael in a couple, it's not a straight on shot, but you see a couple in odd lighting, in shadows, you see his full face, which is played in the first one and this one by Tyler Mane, who you might know from Sabretooth from the X-Men movies. And I'm going to save my feelings for Tyler Mane for later, but he plays it, I think, pretty well. He is a very intimidating Michael Myers in this movie, which I appreciate. I think if you look at Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween Resurrection even, he's not as intimidating as I feel like Myers should be. He's almost a bumbling buffoon in some of the cases where he just gets tripped up and outsmarted. This one just feels like a mad pit bull coming at you, which is probably how Rob wanted it to feel, because that's kind of how his movies are. But the problem with this, again, is you can tell Rob Zombie doesn't really care. And the whole idea about the movie is odd. Michael starts seeing visions of his mom who died, and she's got a white horse, and the white horse represents things, and she's in like a wedding dress, and it's weird. It's really weird. The Jamie Lee Curtis character from the first movie is played, I cannot remember the actress' name, but she becomes really snarky, and she becomes a person that you don't really want to root for. So that's just, it makes you not want to care if she gets slaughtered, which she's the one you should want to survive. Yeah, it's just an odd movie. It's a very odd movie. Oh, one of the other things I do enjoy is, and I'll talk more about this again when I talk about the first one, I do like Malcolm McDowell playing Dr. Loomis in this one, and his change. In the first one, he plays Dr. Loomis, very similar to how Donald Pleasance played him in the original and in the sequel. This one is interesting because he plays him very egotistical. He writes a book. He wants to get fame from the Michael Myers tragedy. I like that twist. Again, it makes him a person nobody likes, but I feel like that is definitely a road that a character like a Donald Pleasance who had, or wow, I can't remember the character's name. I'm blanking. Anyways, having the doctor of Michael Myers, I could see him going down that route. I could see him going the innocent route of, I need to save this person. And I could see someone going down the route of, I need to make money off this because everyone wants to know everything about it, and I have the most knowledge. So I was really liking that. But again, overall, not a good movie. Not a good movie. Zombie is done better. Halloween is done better. I think this one is going to be the shocker of the list. My number 8 is Halloween 2. The original Halloween 2. I felt this one was... okay, let's start at the beginning. I really liked that it continued straight off the first one. If you've seen the first one, number 2 picks up right after. There's no time gap. It's Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance going to the hospital, and that's where it's set. I like that. I like that there's no time gap. I think that, especially, maybe when it came out, it might have been a little bit meh, but watching them back to back, you really feel like it's the same movie continued, especially because it's directed by John Carpenter. And it's pretty much the same people. Again, having all the same cast is great. All Set in the Hospital is okay. I know what they were going for, and I think a lot of it had to do with budget, but I'm not a big fan of having everything in one location. unless it's Saw. I like that. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like the look of it. I didn't like the cinematography. I think they got a different cinematographer for this one now that one did so well. I'm not 100% on that. Could be wrong. Don't quote me. It just felt different. I really enjoyed the first one, but this one just, I don't know. I felt like it took a step, not backwards, but to the side. I know a lot of people like The Mask in number 2. I know a lot of people do. It is not the same as the William Shatner one from the first movie. It is a little different. At one point he gets stabbed in the eyes, and the mask has the blood dripping down, which I always call crying Michael Myers. I don't like that look personally. I think it takes the focus off the mask, and the mask being expressionless, and the mask being anybody. I think this, even though it's just blood trickling down, it gives it emotion to a point, and I didn't enjoy it. This is probably one that I have seen close to last. I think I've seen this less than any other one because I just didn't enjoy it. So sorry. Let's jump into number 7. This one is going to make a lot of people mad, I think, because I think a lot of people would put this a lot lower. Halloween Kills. I don't think a lot of people like this movie. And I think a lot of people are going to be frustrated that Halloween Ends is not the lowest of the new trilogy. The coming out of the burning house at the beginning of the movie is the only thing anybody remembers from this movie. I think it's the only thing anybody remembers from this movie. It is a great shot. It's a great scene where he is slaughtering EMTs and firefighters. It's a cool scene, but it just falls apart after that, personally. I'm sorry. It's just, and I know a lot of people like this movie, and especially, like I said, that hate Halloween Ends even more. I like the idea of the fellow survivors from massacres past kind of coming together in a group to kill Michael. Why that hadn't happened yet, I know they've done it here and there. I think they did it in 4. That's how they got the group together to shoot him down the well, or in the mine shaft. But actually getting them together as a group to go after Michael, I think is a good idea. I really thought that would be cool. Karen's death at the end was a good high point. I knew he would have to kill one of Jamie's family. It's just which one, and having her get slaughtered, well, not slaughtered, she gets stabbed at the end, really made you interested in where the next movie was going to go. Here's the big problem. That mob fight scene at the end was so frustrating as a Myers fan. That fight scene should have been a culmination of so much frustration and anger, and it just wasn't. Let me paint the picture quickly, because I know we got 6 more movies and we're already at like almost the 45-minute mark. You have an entire group of people who have been affected by one guy going around slaughtering their relatives, significant others, friends and family. You have a group of about 10 to 20 people who are walking down the street and they see Michael Myers. They've got decades worth of rage and anger and ready to just slaughter this person who has put so much grief into their family. And what do? They each, one at a time, hit him with blunt objects. Not one of them shoots him in the head, and they all don't just gang beat him, which gives Michael time to stand up and slaughter each and every one of them one at a time. Holy crap was that frustrating to watch. It reminded me, and I only remember the parody. I know it was a commercial back in the day, but in Scary Movie 2, near the end of the movie, where they're doing that basketball and it's in the shadows and there's a spotlight over them and they're kind of passing the ball back and forth. That is what I could think of while watching this movie, of just him moving from person to person, slaughtering each one of them when they all should have just beat him to death. And that just, it left such a sour taste in my mouth. That is why that is in that scene, or that number. To frustrate some people even more, the next one is at number 6, Halloween Ends. Now, again, if anybody's seen the new trilogy, you're pulling out your hair going, how could you put that one above it? There was so many problems. Yes, 100% there were problems with that movie. But it was a different idea for the movie, and I appreciated it, and I remember more of that movie than I do of Halloween Kills. The idea of Michael being older and not being able to do what he once did is a great idea. Did it execute properly? No, I completely understand that. But having him be able to be old and needing someone else to do his killing for him, I don't mind that idea. The end fight with Jamie Lee Curtis was great. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't, stabbing each other 50 times and they're both okay. It was short. It was sweet. And she did the job. Throwing him, spoilers, into a wood chipper to finally kill him was a great idea. What I really enjoyed for this movie was at the end, and I don't think anybody gives this scene the credit it deserves. There is Jamie Lee Curtis and Will Patton, who plays an officer in the movie. They've had a camaraderie and a friendship throughout the films. They sit on Jamie Lee Curtis's porch after everything's done. And they start talking, but they stop talking after a few seconds and they just look into the distance. And you could tell neither of them know what to do now that Michael isn't around. And I really enjoy that thought of when you've spent your whole life focused on a goal and that goal is over, what's left? What do you do now? It's the supervillain problem of, I want to take over the world. You've taken over the world. Now what? Your job is over. You have nothing left. I thought that was a really cool scene. Was the guy who became Michael Myers' killer throughout the movie the greatest? No, I will fully admit that. But I personally enjoyed the ideas of this movie and what it brought to the series more than the first scene of Halloween Kills. Sorry, my list. Let's go to number 5. We got our top 5. Number 5, Halloween Water. Halloween H2O. This was a fun movie. We're going to get into the fun ones now. This was a great idea. Doing 20 years in the future from Halloween 1 and 2 was the first time we really saw a good time jump that worked. Jamie Lee Curtis is now a teacher. She's not in Haddonfield anymore. She's matured, but she still has a little bit of fear that Michael could come back. Really fun idea. I really liked the way that they wrote her character. She tries to do everything in her power to not think about what happened, but everything in her life pulls it right back into her. I really like that idea. Having Janet Leigh in this movie as one of the other teachers, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, Janet Leigh, who, if you know Janet Leigh, that is the woman from Psycho. That is just a beautiful mother-daughter moment. that I think is really cool. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis really enjoyed that. The ending is good in this. Michael getting kidnapped by Jamie Lee Curtis and her slicing his head off at the end. Spoilers, didn't kill him. Slicing his head off at the end was I didn't see it coming when I first saw this. It made me really interested to watch Resurrection. Forgot to mention, in Resurrection, you find out that Michael had switched bodies with a cop and duct taped his mouth shut so he couldn't talk. But ending H2O with him getting his head chopped off by Jamie Lee Curtis was really cool. The problem with this movie, the masks, and I use that word with an S. There's 4 to 5 masks in this, and they kept switching them throughout the movie, and everyone notices. There are different cuts of this movie that have different masks in the same scenes. So you can watch one scene in one version of the movie and watch in a different version, it's a different mask. There is one point in the movie where there's a CGI mask. So yeah, the mask is the biggest problem with this. Michael doesn't really feel intimidating. There is that one scene where they're looking through the glass of a door, which I really like, but the mask is just not threatening in this one like the other ones. But still a fun watch. Still a fun watch, in my opinion. Number 4, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers from 1995. This was my first Halloween besides the first Halloween. This, I know this isn't everybody's favorite, but I really like this movie. I think the cast is good. The only big problem with this, and I think if you're a Halloween fan, you know the issue with this, and that is Danielle Harris's character, Jamie Lloyd, is a lot older, and she has a baby. But the director or the studio did not want to do much with Jamie Lloyd's character, so Danielle Harris didn't come back. They got another actress, and they killed her in about 5 seconds in the movie. That's a frustration of this movie. However, you have great actors like Paul Rudd is in this movie, and he does a great job as an older version of one of the children from a previous movie. I think that's a cool idea. This is the way it's shot is interesting. It's a very 90s movie. If you put this on and you go, what year is this made? You kind of go mid-90s because it's shot that way. And I personally enjoy that style of movie. It's when I first started liking movies, so I understand there is a bias to it. But it's still it's a good look for me. It's got blues and orange. That's sort of the tone of the movie. They needed to bring the Jamie Lloyd character more into this movie. This was the end of the Thorn trilogy. You understand, it's told that there's a cult that was sort of pushing Michael through curses to make him do things. It's okay. There's the man in black, I believe his name is. That's all he's known as. He's sort of leading the cult. It's okay. It works better in this because it's not the focus. It's mentioned, but not as much. The ending is good. I really like that Paul Rudd just stabs him with some tranquilizers, and that's how they get away. They don't kill him, but I do enjoy that they just need to get away. There is an alternate version that I will admit, if this was the actual ending, I wouldn't have enjoyed it, where he just gets like surrounded by these special rocks and he can't move because of the curse. It's a weird cut. I don't count it. It's not the theatrical release. But yeah, overall, Paul Rudd's great in this movie. The other cast members are great in this movie. This is the last one with Donald Pleasance. He passes away not long after this movie, so it's great to see him one last time in the Samuel Lewis character. Yeah, I enjoyed this one personally. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's mine. So we have, going from 4 down, we've got 4, Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, 5, Halloween H2O, 6, Halloween Ends, 7, Halloween Kills, 8, Halloween 2, 9, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, 10, Halloween 4, 11, Halloween 5, 12, Halloween Resurrection, and 13, Halloween 3, which means the top 3 are all first of the trilogies. So, what order am I doing my trilogies? Well, this one I think fits perfectly in this number. Rob Zombie's take on Halloween, as I said earlier, may not be everyone's cup of tea. I really enjoyed his take on Michael Myers. The movie, I see the flaws, but for Michael, I don't know if there's many other that are there are not many others that are as scary as Tyler Mane's Michael Myers. The Rob Zombie films are brutal, and so is Michael. He is exactly what Sam Lewis, Donald Pleasance says in the first movie. When he says the line, I looked into that boy's eyes and all I saw was darkness. And all I saw was death. That's what I felt seeing Tyler Mane's Michael Myers. He looked unstoppable. He's enormous, which makes him even more intimidating. The usual cast of characters are in this movie. Mickey Dolenz is in this. Danny Trejo's in this. Like I said, Tyler Mane's in this. Malcolm McDowell playing Samuel Lewis is a great casting. I love Malcolm McDowell. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves as an actor. It's definitely a different take. You know, they show a lot of Michael as a child in this and how he was bullied and how he sort of got that inner killer in him. It's a different take. Again, it's an alternate universe version of him, so I'll take it with the liberty. I'll take it with a little bit of grain of salt. The time period fits well. I like that it's 70s, 80s feel. The Sherry Moon Zombie being Michael's mom, I think fits. I think if you try to do a modern take on it with her and the rest of the cast, I don't think it would work. I think, as with most zombie films, the time period has to be set there for it to fit. I really liked that Michael had a fascination with masks while he was in the asylum after killing his sister. I really dig that idea. You know, him having just stealing the Michael Myers mask in the first one was something I always kind of went like, why? But this one worked. I like that he sort of had that hiding his face, felt he was ugly. It worked a little bit better in this one. And it's a funny scene, but I really kind of enjoy him being Tyler Mane and still having the kid mask on. I really think that's a cool look. But again, I think the biggest problem with this one is something that I wish I could remember the quote. I remember the quote, but I wish I remember the director who said it. But nobody ever looked at their main character that they love and says, I wonder how he got that way. No one ever asks that question because no one cares. And I feel like that's a big problem with this movie because little kid Michael Myers, I don't really enjoy it as much. I don't need to know that he was beaten up as a kid, that he was a Kiss fan, that he, killed some rats and he beat the shit out of a kid when he was getting bullied. Like, I don't need to know all that. I'm good, but whatever. It's a zombie movie. I'll take it. But yeah, one of my favorites, and I've probably seen this one probably second most, I think. I enjoyed it. I really did. I think you guys can probably understand which one is number one, but we're still gonna play like you don't have any idea. So let's just jump into number two. Number two is obviously Halloween 2018. I think this was a cool reimagining of the series. I don't count this as an alternate universe because you still have Jamie Lee Curtis in this. Even like, I know it's an extension, but it's a reimagining, sort of. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't count it as a reboot, but I don't know. It feels like it's a different timeline, even though Jamie Lee Curtis is in this. Personal. I really like Jamie Lee Curtis being a badass in this movie. I really think she plays it well. I think she shows that she's ready to take on Michael, but she has that scene at the restaurant where it cracks her. And you can tell that emotion is still inside her. I really like that. I like that she has put traps throughout her home to prepare her for when Michael comes back, because she knows it's going to happen and she's dead set that that's going to happen. I really dig the way they did that. The final trap in this movie, really cool. Locking him in the basement, having Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter play victim to trap Michael down there is a brilliant choice. I don't think I've ever seen anybody try and fake out Michael Myers, and it worked beautifully. Yeah, overall, I think this was a great movie, and I think a lot of people, based off the reception they got from, how good they love The Mask, how well they enjoyed the new direction of Michael. Nick Castle plays him in parts. I cannot remember the guy's name who plays him in most scenes. He plays a good job when he's got the mask off in the asylum. Great job on that. The couple doing the podcast to sort of bring people into the world was a great choice. Overall, I think this is obviously as number 2, one of my favorites. It was I don't think people thought it'd be as good as it was. And that just makes me happy. And yes, the next 2 were not that great, but I think, hey, 1 out of 3 ain't bad when it comes to horror movies. Oh, also, this bloody soundtrack in this is amazing. I've said it a million times. Go on YouTube after this and check out Halloween 2018, The Shape Hunts Allison. There's a bunch of notes in that song, and it's John Carpenter and his son did the entire soundtrack. John Carpenter's son gets a bow and glides it across an electric guitar. It makes a sound that'll send chills down your spine. It was a moment in time where I was in the theater seeing that movie, and I sat up in my chair and went, that is one of the scariest sounds. And something bad's going to happen when that note hits. So check that out after. And number 1, obviously, Halloween, number 1, John Carpenter created the franchise. Number 1 was obvious. Can you say anything bad about this movie? This created 12 other movies. This created an icon in horror. It started everything. It started absolutely everything. The budget of this is tiny. One of the most, if not the most successful independent movie ever made. And it built a franchise. The casting was perfect. Nick Castle as the Shape, not even Michael Myers. He's listed as the Shape. Breakout performance, Jamie Lee Curtis. PJ Souls. Dr. Sam Lewis, played by Donald Pleasance. A brilliant script. Brilliant, simple script of somebody stalking babysitters. And they were going to call it the Babysitter Murders. And somebody went, no one has made a Halloween movie. Let's make it. And boom, they're off to the races. Just a brilliant, the atmosphere of that movie, the silence in that movie is its own character. That is something that not many films do nowadays, where you can just be quiet and it builds tension instead of having the music. And that when it hits a fever pitch, something's going to happen. That dead silence. Because that's what the characters are hearing too. It puts you in the scene, and it's a perfect choice. John Carpenter blew it out of the water when it comes to the directing, the soundtrack. Again, because they had so little budget, they all put their hands into every little bit of this, and they did a great job. And they all deserve a round of applause, because it's pretty close to a perfect horror movie. And I know it's not scary anymore. It was 1978, so I get that people, even I watched it the first time and didn't think it was that bad. But looking at how it was made, what it started and putting yourself back in that year, that decade, man, it's amazing to see what they did with that, and it still holds up today. That is my list, folks. Thank you for hanging in a little extra late tonight. It is 105. We're at the 105 mark. It is 8:05 in the PM. We got one more thing to do before we head out, and that is your song of the week. Song of the week. Really good band out of Vancouver. If you're a metal fan, you'll appreciate. If you're a speed metal fan, you'll appreciate this even more. The band is called Unleash the Archers. They are an amazing metal band with an amazing, and I use this term very strongly, an amazing lead singer. She is incredible. Her voice is wow. The song I want you guys to check out is The Awakening. It's off I think it's their second last album. Incredible playing, incredible vocals. Go check them out. They've got a bunch of great songs. They're touring all over Canada. They're touring in the US. They're opening for a bunch of big bands. I can't wait to have them come back around because I so want to see them. That is it, everybody. I'm going to let you guys get out of here. Let's see what's on tap for next week, and then you guys can go. Let me duck this out. What do we got here? I got shows for next week are... Ooh, this one will be good. Next week, we're going to be talking about Hamilton Comic-Con. This is my local Comic-Con. I've been doing Comic-Con for a while, but doing it for like 5-6 years. This is going to be fun because we're going to talk about some really, really fun stories. I worked with Jason David Frank. We're going to talk about Corey Feldman. We're going to talk about the voice actor for Inspector Gadget. We're going to talk about Darth Vader, Ric Flair, the Gun Club, Flash Gordon, Soup Nazi, all those celebrities and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to talk about that. But until then, have a happy and safe Halloween tomorrow, folks. I will see you soon. We'll talk soon. Love you guys. See you then. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.